DreAllDay.com.
DreAllDay.com. Today's daily motivation is there is no narrative when you win. And what this is related to is these days, especially being my background is in sports, so I'm a sports fan. I follow what a lot of people say about sports, or what the conversations that are going on about sports, which is basically like a current event. And I notice a lot of people using this word narrative. This is a big thing that gets talked about a lot these days, narrative. These people have a narrative about this player. There's a narrative about how this happened, but when this is what really happened. And, people always using this word narrative. I want you all to understand something. There is no narrative when you win. You see, a narrative is simply a story. That's all it is. A narrative is simply a story that's being told about what happened and why it happened, and maybe even how it happened, or maybe some parts that got left out, or some parts that haven't been told, and somebody wants to tell the story of what happened, either to cover their ass or to make themselves look better or make somebody else look worse, whatever. Just a story. That's all it is. Good thing is, in life, when you produce results, and life is a results-based business, and it's a performance-based business, when you produce results, there is no narrative. There's no need for a narrative when you're succeeding. See, if you set out to make $50,000 in a week, and you make the $50,000, well, do you need to tell a story? No, you don't. All you got to do is say, I did it. I said I was going to do this, and I did it. There's no story. Now, if you don't do it, you come up short. You only produce 25,000. You meant to produce 50. You might need a story, because you got to explain yourself and why you didn't do what you said you were going to do. See, that's when the narrative comes in. And I got an episode on my podcast where I talked about this. Controlling the narrative is for losers. See, the only people who need to control a narrative are people who didn't achieve their desired outcome. That's why they got to try to make sure that the story comes out a certain way so that they can look a certain way. But listen, if you achieved every goal that you set out to achieve, then it doesn't matter what story anybody else tells, because the bottom line is the outcome. Bottom line is the results. Now, that doesn't mean that people who succeed cannot or will not tell a story. You can be successful and still tell your story. There are plenty of successful people who tell stories. They write books, they give speeches, they get documentaries made about themselves, all kinds of stuff happens. People who are successful telling a story. But here's the difference. People who are successful tell a story because they want to. They choose to tell a story. They're telling their story because people want to know about how did this successful person become successful. So they get asked to tell a story, and they oblige by telling the story. It's the people who lose, who don't succeed, they tell a story because they have to. Because they can't just be quiet and let the results speak for themselves. They say your results and your outcomes speak for themselves, or in football they say talk with your pads. In basketball, in any sport, they say just look at the scoreboard, right? The scoreboard tells the story, or the quote-unquote story of what happened. And then sometimes you hear people say, well, the scoreboard doesn't tell the whole story. Yeah, the only people who say that are the people who lose. You ever heard somebody who wins say the scoreboard doesn't tell the whole story? Just think about that. Have you ever heard somebody who won a game say the scoreboard doesn't tell the whole story? Or somebody who's a fan of the person who won, do they say the scoreboard doesn't tell the whole story? No, you never hear that from the person who won, or the people who support the winning team. Only people who say the scoreboard doesn't tell the whole story are the people who either are on or they're supporters of the losing team. The scoreboard doesn't tell the whole story. There's more to the story than just what happened on the scoreboard. Maybe there is, but who cares? In a performance and results-based business, the most important thing that matters is the result. That's the most important thing that matters. Now, are there other pieces to it? Are there other parts to the story? Is there other things that we could possibly know other than what happened? Sure, there is, but who cares? If we're in a performance and results-based business, then the business goes to the person who produces the result, true or not. So all this narrative stuff, any of you who's found yourself in this position of trying to quote-unquote control a narrative about what's happened, I'm diagnosing for you why you're doing it. It's because you didn't produce a result. You produce a result, you ain't got to say nothing if you don't want to. Now, you could say something because somebody wants to hear your story. They want to know about how you did it, or they just want to glorify you, or you want to get some extra attention that comes with the fact that you won, because as they say, to the victors go the spoils. You can tell a story if you want to, but you don't really have to. Think about somebody like Michael Jordan. I was just rewatching his documentary, Chicago Bulls documentary series, The Last Dance, over the last few days. Michael Jordan won. I mean, he was in basketball one of, I guess, next to Bill Russell, the ultimate winner out there, right? Ultimate winner in basketball, next to Bill Russell. Michael Jordan didn't really have to tell a story. I mean, he played, he did his thing, and he didn't really say anything. He didn't really try to control a narrative or do anything for damn near 2 decades. His documentary didn't come out till like 20 years after the heyday of what he did with the Chicago Bulls. He wasn't really trying to control a narrative. He didn't have to. And he told that story, but he didn't have to. If he didn't want to put that documentary out, nobody would have, we didn't need it. Why? Because his results spoke for themselves. And that documentary was really kind of just a, excuse me, an introduction for a new generation of people, like who this guy was, because a lot of people who were a little bit younger didn't really know Michael Jordan when he was Michael Jordan. So it was kind of just letting them know, hey, here's who this guy was and what he was about. It's not like he was comparing himself to anybody who's come out since him. The documentary was just talking about what happened then. And it was really just rehashing for people who knew about it. It was fun just to rehash the stories that we kind of already knew. It's not like they were telling you anything new in that documentary if you were watching Jordan when he was Jordan. He wasn't giving you anything new. It was just a rehash, and everybody liked it because nobody liked watching Jordan because he was a winner. And people want to see that story, and people love to hear the stories of people who are successful because we can draw something from it. The whole point is there's no narrative to control when you succeed. And you don't even have to tell a narrative. You ain't got to say nothing because your results are speaking. So I want all of you to take that in mind, take that into consideration today and moving forward in what you're doing. When it's time to tally up the results and the outcomes of what you have produced. Are you producing results and just saying, hey, here's black and white what I did, here's what you needed, here's what I did, boom, done? Or are you trying to control a narrative to make up for what you did not produce? And you need to hold yourself accountable to the answer to that question. With that said, make sure you text me so you're in my text community. It's free to join. I send out a daily motivation every day, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day. Just text me at my number, 305-384-6894, and workonyourgameuniversity.com. If you want to work with me directly, you want to be coached by me, the only place I do it is inside the university. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link and the number to my text community are both down below in the description to this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you're notified every new video we drop here on this channel, and work on your game. Dre, all